This is a 03 525, so M54 2.5. So it does have the drive-by-wire, the different DISA and all that stuff. Anyway, none of that matters. What the problem with this car was, it was having problems dying erratically. It might run fine for a week. It was just like somebody reached over and turned the key off, then it wouldn't restart. This car was slightly out of time. I was starting to think it was a timing issue, maybe something slipped. I retimed it. That over advance light went off. Still the same problem. I checked all the vacuum leaks. It was acting like the vacuum leak, but never through a lean code. There was no vacuum leaks, nothing to speak of anyway. Redid a couple things vacuum line wise, put all back together. Still has a P0340, which is calling for the intake camshaft sensor. Now it has some sensors on top of the engine. I have the original sensor from the car, which is the OEM BMW. The OEM sensors look like this, kind of tapered on the end. And I replaced it a while back when we started having this issue with another OEM sensor I had in my toolbox. And this came from a running driving car with no problems. Switched it all out, same code, P0430, same problem, identical. Now this is in my toolbox for a little while. Maybe it got pulled on, tugged on, you just don't know. At any rate, it come down to, we switched it out with the third sensor and that fixed it. Everything went away. So we had two bad sensors right in a row. The intake sensor on these cars is not known for going bad very commonly at all. What we're going to have to do here, looks like I need to fix that too, don't I? We replace that, and we have two other options. Now, when you have the P0430, all this stuff powers off the same wire. It has a real hard time, the ECU does, determining from the crank sensor problem, from an intake cam sensor problem, or from an exhaust cam sensor problem. Sometimes it'll fool you. It'll say cam sensor and it'll be the crank sensor. M54 and M52 TUs always had those issues. So we have a couple sensors here. We have a crank sensor. This goes on the crankshaft. This is down below the starter. What these things have, usually the problem is on the face of it, it'll get a crack in it, it'll get oil in it. This one's starting to get cracked. Or it'll get a big blister on the top of it. And the top of it won't be flat anymore, it'll be domed over. Well, that'll move the reference point closer to that little gear that it reads, and the timing will be off. Then you get the non-starting issue and all that crap. And the other problem is, this is the most common with these cars. Let me be clear here. The crankshaft sensor usually doesn't do that until around 150,000 miles, if it hasn't been changed. Now, the most common issue, like I was just saying, is the exhaust camshaft sensor. That's this guy here. This is a China sensor. I just pulled this out of the toolbox. None of these can be replaced with the China no-name sensor. It will throw the light, no doubt, or it'll have the no start problem still. So everything on this car right now is OEM stuff. We bought a mile sensor to replace the exhaust cam sensor that's in there right now. This car had this Chinese sensor in it. It wasn't causing an issue, but it could any day. So basically, it could also be a timing issue. If the car, the Vanel's timing is off, it has a little wheel that reads the sensor, and this intake sensor is right here. So to pull it, you got to pull the rubber hose. On your car, it's probably going to be the plastic hose. This has a catch can set up. Then you got to pull the Vanel solenoid. Then you got to pull the banjo bolt, which is 17 or 19, depends on what year you have. Then you can finally take the little 5mm Allen bolt out that goes in this hole and holds the sensor in. It's a pretty easy job. Don't let a shop charge you to do that. It plugs in right down there. You can't see it with this camera, but you just push the little bail and it pulls right off. No problem at all. Nothing to it. So this goes to show you, you never can tell what's going to be the problem. In this case, it was two bad intake camshaft sensors all at once. And, you know, that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes. You never know. You could even buy a brand new sensor, a name brand sensor. Sometimes they don't work. Also, for whatever reason, that sensor was causing a thermostat code, that map cooling code. It was causing that to come on. The thermostat's almost brand new on this thing. The code came back on. So something that was shorting in that sensor is also on the same circuit as the map cooling. That might be something to look for too. If you got a China sensor in your car, guys, and you're having map cooling problems with the brand new thermostat, that could be something to do with that also. But that's it, guys. That is all for the no start or randomly starting issue for the BMW M52 TU and M54 engine. Thanks for watching.